Hi, I'm Eric. I had a bout with cancer, and I was going to talk about it as I went through it. But I see these crazy men and women like showing you their colostomy bag and they're sitting in the hospital dying and all of this crap. And there's this wacko doctor who survived cancer, and she's telling you to eat oatmeal and shit. And it's just the opposite of what my experience was. But I'll try to be brief how I went through it, what I did. I had pains in my side. I went to the doctor. They said your white blood count is high. Go to see an oncologist. I couldn't see him for a month. So he says, go to the ER. So I said, good, I'll walk up there. It's like, 3 blocks away, Methodist Hospital in New York. He goes, no, I'll call an ambulance. Well, he's affiliated with Maimonides, which is a Hasidic hospital. Here's my view of Hasidim. So anyway, I get there. I knew something was wrong. I'm sitting in the ER, and this old Hasidim walks in. And I've worked in banks and things. The same thing happens. He goes, finds a like administrator, barks at him, and he's telling him to cut corners. And then he leaves. They do whatever the f they want. So anyway, they give me a CAT scan. They say we're going to give you a colostomy, and then they say they change their mind. And they say, by the way, you have a tumor, and we're going to cut a foot of your colon out. I said, okay. When for how long? No, so would I have to wear a colostomy bag? Because my father died of this. I swore I'd never had one. So she goes, the one of the surgeons comes. She's like 12, and says, yeah, you will. I said, for how long? She says, about a year. I said, you weren't even going to tell me this? This is what these bastards do. Here's one very good point you should remember. If you go in for any surgery, you don't want them doing extra things, you must get it in writing. The other thing you must do is, even if it's your aunt, you get a medical advocate and you lie and you say that they work for a hospital for like 20 years. They will treat you differently. Luckily, I had a cousin who was a social worker in a hospital. They're the bastards who try to screw you with the insurance. They really are evil people, which it turned out he was. But his sister was very good, could fight them, helped me a lot. So anyway, I had this infection that spread to my pancreas. So they put you in a CAT scan, in, out, put these tubes in here, suck it out. I said, great. They said, okay, we're going to cut you tomorrow. I said, no, you're not. I'm going home. They sent 5 surgeons, including the head of surgery. And I lied to the guy because I said, something's wrong here. I said, I want to go home, pay some bills. We'll see. I want to think about it. He goes, okay, that's a rational reason. Now I'm wondering, after COVID, if they cannot keep you. I mean, he was like, I almost had to ask permission to leave. And I wonder if they ever tried to keep you and you called the police, if the police would come. They don't come for nursing homes. They let them do whatever they want. They run by Hasidim. But anyway, got out of there, went home. They had to take this thing out. But the doctor I didn't want to go back to that hospital. So someone recommended a doctor up in the Methodist, which is New York Presbyterian Methodist now. So she takes the crap out. No, before that, she was on vacation for 2 weeks. So I find, I don't know what to call him, an ass doctor. A guy does colonoscopies. I talked to him. He looked at my chart. He said, no, you have diverticulitis. Come back in 3 months. So I get the thing taken out. The crazy woman's giving me this thing. At your age, you got to have a colostomy everywhere. And I don't want any of this thing. So I go home. So as I'm waiting to go back to the guy, I started getting weaker and weaker, and it wasn't crapping. So it turns out I was bleeding out. Could have been the tumor, maybe not. And it was blocking my intestine, so like all that crap was backing up. So I still fought these people. I went to the emergency room, and they're like, we're going to give you a colonoscopy. I don't want it. They got talking to it. So anyway, here's where, see, they get bad. They took, they said they were going to go in and take the tumor out. But later they said it was too big. It was like in the wall of my intestine. And so they gave me a colostomy bag. Now, my father was misdiagnosed with cancer and died because of this shit. I was furious, but there was nothing I could do. Now, to get the damn thing out, I have to play ball with them. So they were like, we want you to have chemotherapy. And I'm like, and they lied. They say 30 days and it's 4 months. And you know what it does to people? There are people they have living in the hospital who look like they're dying, holding on to false hope, these doctors get. So anyway, they gave me, luckily I found a new oncologist, and they gave me immunotherapy, which I'm sure has side effects, but basically it boosts up your immune system. As I did that, my cousin started sending me every natural cure you could think of. And I found Dr. Seifried on YouTube. And his thing is that cancer has a primitive feeding mechanism. So it doesn't eat like your regular cells. It, what's the word? Ferments sugar, glutamine, and gluten. I don't know how gluten works into that, but three things you should avoid. Cut all that crap out of my diet. And I learned the hard way. I had to cut out like apple juice and things too. Um, I My cousin sent me green tea, maca green tea. That's supposed to help. Soursop, hibiscus, dandelion. She sent me all these drops, including what is that, methylene blue, which actually makes you feel great. I don't know if it cures cancer, but and these other drops. I started eating no bread. A lot of things like chili, because the people in Mexico and India have the lowest cancer rate, the highest red pepper chili consumption. I made sure I had turmeric in a lot of dishes and made a lot of curry, like super hot. I can handle that. I built up a tolerance for it. Some people can't. So anyway, whatever test they give you, like 7 months before, it was like 7.5. It went down to 2.5. They said, okay, we'll take the thing out. Here's a funny thing. I'm practicing Catholic, so I believe in prayer. But I also fool around with manifestations. And maybe you evangelicals will go, it's witchcraft, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I did both. And I said, I want this thing out of me. And they said like 6 months. They did it in a month and a half. And they said either we'll go in laparoscopically or cut you. And I thought of having like all those muscles and stuff cut and the recovery. I kept picturing. Wouldn't you know, when I met with the doctor, he wasn't supposed to be there that day. I was just supposed to meet with the nurse. He's sitting just as I pictured him sitting over and over. And I really thought that it would be, oh, your cancer's gone, you go home. But he said, we're probably going to go through laparoscopically. Luckily, that's what they did. But they put like 8 holes in you. And this is weird. They put an inert gas in you, I guess so they get seizure. And when you're recovering, you get these awful pains in your shoulder and your head. And I looked it up, and it's the gas rising through your body. That's how it escapes. How that can be good for you, I do not know. And it was weird too. They did the surgery in Sloan Kettering because they're all like mixed together now. And for some strange reason, I got my own room on the 25th floor with like at the corner, so it was all glass, and I had this view of I think it's Long Island City on the other side, the far east side of Manhattan, and of course you're recovering, you're in pain. All they give you is acetaminophen, which is like Tylenol, I think. Don't take that shit because there was a tumor in my colon and one in my liver, but they said nothing had spread everywhere else when they did the PET scan. So they took it out, and I don't like this crap. While she was in there, she cut my diaphragm, scraped shit off my ribs, and took a bit of muscle out. Now my fear in all of this, not only the chemo, that years ago my uncle went through an operation where they cut his intestine, and they seed it. They don't get all of it. And ended up, killing them 6 months later. I'm not worried about that. I'm like 0 sugar, 0 carbs, all of this visualization. I think it works better than anything they did. And also, my cousin took care of both of her parents. They had each of them had 2 bouts of different cancer. They were way up there, 80s, 90s. They went to Sloan Kettering and everything, but she did all these natural things, and she thinks that really what helped, and I kind of do too. But her father was a great one to do good research. He used to write books. He was a head of the philosophy department at St. Francis College, not the best college, but he found this. I think it's Dr. Fred Benini. I think that anyway, he's on the radio. He has a clinic in Manhattan. He claims they do it with sound. They break up the tumor. I wanted to use him, but the problem was I had already started with these people, and I need them to take out the colostomy, you know. And I mean, you get used to anything. That was a humiliating, awful thing. Um, I don't know if it was necessary or not, to tell you the truth. But that's the story. And, you know, I have a different attitude than a lot of the people I see on YouTube. They give you this bullshit like, oh, I'm a 5-year survivor, and they say this diet to follow. It's all crap. I'm done with it. It's never coming back. And if it is, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not getting chemo. I'll start with like traditional Chinese doctor, try someone else who's not going to burn and cut. There's a lot of more natural clinics out there. I know it sounds crazy, but there are people who take IVs of turmeric, IVs of vitamin C. I would trust anyone but a hospital. Um, I could go on about like the horror stories there and the lies, and it's just very weird, like a cult. Also, um, my mother was in and out of the hospital like 5 years ago, Methodist. They were nasty. They got bought by Presbyterian. Everyone has nice, spiffy matching uniforms, and everybody's nice. Even the people who like deliver you food and push the orderlies and all that, who used to be kind of surly. But they're like a cult. They're not only saccharine. They wanted me to take the chemo, and I kept refusing. And they kept sending doctors to like convince me. Then they send a physical therapist who tells a cock and bull story about her father. He's fine, blah blah blah, pretending to be my friend. She was told to do this. I'm not being paranoid. You know, you can feel when people are acting. So it's, you know, never tell them the truth, never admit anything, never tell them you smoke. If you did drugs in the past, never any of that crap. Because you end up in a database and they're not your friend. They work for a for-profit corporation. And you can't tell what's going to happen in the future. You know, you want a friend, buy a dog. Or, you know, if you have someone in your family who's a nurse or a doctor, confide in them. But your primary, no, no, none of these people. Um, but one thing I did notice, I shouldn't admit this, I came home from the surgery and I had these awful pains. I couldn't sleep. So before I went in, I had terrible nausea and I broke down and I ordered like pot gummies. So I said, the hell with it. I tried one and the pain went away completely. I didn't have to take it anymore. I mean, I can't give you medical advice, but that worked for me. So at this point, of course, they always screw up. There was some bleeding that became infected. So they gave me this drainage bag. I'm supposed to have it out next week. It's like this brown shit comes out of you as soon as it's clear. But that's about it. I hope that was helpful. And please don't listen to that wacky hyper doctor on YouTube who's telling you to eat oatmeal and fruit and all this crap. Oatmeal will kill you. Turns into sugar in the gut, as far as I can tell. If you're concerned about anything like this, even if you're healthy, I would tune into Dr. Seyfried. He's on YouTube. I think I pronounced the name correctly, and he's up in Boston College, Boston University. I really forget which one. But if you mention it's a doctor, they'll look at you with like doe eyes, like they've never heard of it. But that's it. All right, thanks.